Hi, peeps. You're listening to She's My Cherry Pie, the baking podcast from the Cherry Bombe Podcast Network. I'm your host, Jessie Sheehan. I'm a baker, recipe developer, and cookbook author, and my 4th book is coming out this fall. Each Saturday, I'm hanging out with the sweetest bakers around and taking a deep dive into their signature bakes. My guest today is Mindy Segal, a James Beard Award-winning pastry chef, cookbook author, and the owner of Mindy's Bakery in Chicago. Mindy opened her first restaurant, Hot Chocolate, back in 2005 after honing her craft in some of Chicago's top restaurants. In 2022, she opened Mindy's Bakery in Wicker Park. She also has a product line called Mindy's Edibles, which includes cannabis-infused gummies and chocolates with distinct flavors. In this episode, Mindy and I are talking all about Danishes. Mindy walks us through the steps for how to make the popular breakfast treat, including everything you need for the perfect dough and her favorite sweet and savory toppings. Mindy is an epic human and a visionary baker, and she was so much fun to chat with. So I hope you enjoy our conversation. Thank you to Grappa Nonnino for supporting today's show. Grappa is a traditional Italian spirit made by distilling pomace, the skin, seeds, and stems of grapes left over from the winemaking process. Generations have loved to sip grappa or use it in cocktails, and some even use grappa as an ingredient in baked goods and desserts. I've used bourbon, rum, and amaretto before, but never grappa. So the folks at Grappa Nonnino challenged me to create some special treats with their award-winning grappa varietals. I made a chocolate budino with Nonnino's Monovitigno Chardonnay grappa. The varietal's notes of bread, vanilla, and pastry paired so well with the chocolate. Nonnino's Monovitigno Merlot grappa, with its notes of rose petal and cherry and its fruity finish, was the perfect addition to my ricotta cake with strawberries. A trifle is always a showstopper, so I made a raspberry trifle but swapped out the traditional sherry for Grappa Nonnino Monovitigno Moscato. This varietal's floral, sage, thyme, and vanilla flavors were an ideal complement to the tart raspberries and sweet mascarpone cream. Nonnino has been distilling grappa since 1897 and has been led by generations of amazing women, from Silvia Nonnino, Italy's first female master distiller, to Silvia's 3 granddaughters, who run the distillery today. Keep an eye on my Instagram, Jessie Sheehan Bakes, to learn and see just how I use Grappa Nonnino in my baked goods and desserts and to get the recipes. You can also learn more about Grappa Nonnino at grappanonnino.it. New York Bomb Squad, Team Cherry Bombe, is on the road this summer, and they'll be at Soundview Hotel in Greenport on the North Fork of Long Island for a special dinner with Chef Camille Becerra on Friday, July 26th. To learn more and get your tickets, visit cherrybombe.com. Let's check in with today's guest. Mindy! So happy to have you on She's My Cherry Pie and to chat Danish with you and so much more.
Oh, God, I'm loving every second of this.
There are so many things that I love about you, okay?
Thank
you.
you.
First of all, you're a self-professed milk chocolate girl, and I am as well. You've been described as Chicago's pastry whisperer, and your mantra at your bakery is to take the ordinary and make it extraordinary. Can you unpack that last one for us and maybe give us an example or two?
Yes. All right. So I am in awe of the regular chocolate chip cookie, the Toll House cookie, all-American chocolate cake, vanilla ice cream. But when I say those things, I say, well, let's make vanilla ice cream. But let's make vanilla ice cream the way that no one ever thought about it. Although they're eating it, but they have no idea the complexity that goes into it. And that's the trick that I love to do with people. We came up with that line when I wrote my cookbook, to make the ordinary extraordinary, because my cookies are so simple and yet so complicated.
I thought that this was maybe also an example of that sort of mantra, taking something ordinary and making it extraordinary. I read that you never throw away like just an ordinary tea leaf, because instead you can turn it into an extraordinary sugar.
Yes.
Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, so I can't tell you where in my brain I came up with this idea. It's probably because I don't like to throw anything away, and I always know that something has a flavor no matter what stage it's at. I buy tea from a guy, Roderick Marcus, but his company is Rare Tea, but he's a specialty guy, and he gets the best of the best. So, for instance, like he has chamomile tea, but it's like chamomile tea on steroids. I'm a pastry chef, so I like to poach fruit and I like to do things like that. So, like strawberry chamomile preserve or something like that, which we're going to talk about the Danishes. But anyway, you make a tea syrup, then you strain the tea out of it, right? And you're left with this tea mush, from the sugar syrup. We take the tea leaves that are like softened in the sugar syrup and I put it in a bowl with a lot of sugar and we mix it up and I do it with my hands and I can smell it and it's floral. It's so delicious. Put it on a sheet pan, dry it out, and then grind it, and then it's sugar. I can't begin to tell you how much life there is still left in the tea, which means we shouldn't be throwing our tea leaves away.
I want to talk about your dessert style,
Okay.
which is likely also related to this concept of making the ordinary extraordinary.
Yes.
And I know that perfection doesn't interest you, which I adore, just flavor. Can you talk about how that manifests itself in your baked goods? I read this about you and I love it. Insanely intentional about flavor and the prospect of delicious.
I am. That's a great line. It's my personality. So this is why I like milk chocolate so much, okay? I'm sorry, segueing. Dark chocolate is very fruity. And the higher you go, it's like so sharp, fruity. And I almost feel like, don't get me wrong, I like dark chocolate, but I almost get this feeling that it's fruit, not chocolate, which it is, right? Duh. But milk chocolate has all these layers. You can get coffee, you can get nuts, you can get fudge, you can get some sort of fruit like banana and caramel, butterscotch. And they're all these different percentages. So there's so much depth to it. And I feel like standing alone, it's delicious. Cherries, let's say cherries, because cherries are in season at this moment in time when we're talking. And cherry bombs, so, But you take cherries, you pit them, you poach them in Creek, which is a sour cherry beer. And then you strain them out, dry out those cherries that you poached, use them for something else, right? And then you have this beautiful, fragrant cherry broth, let's say, has a little hints of vanilla, orange, the Creek. Then you poach cherries back in it. And so, like, you're getting this double whammy of cherries. Then you can take that liquid and make sorbet with it. So what I'm saying is that a life of a fruit or a life of a product has multiple layers. And when you put that in a dessert all together, you're getting this explosion in your mouth, but you don't know why, because you don't need to know why. What you need to know is that you like it, and it's delicious. It's yummy. It's something that you talk about and think about. And that, to me, is my job. My job is to make you remember everything that you taste that I make.
And would you say that within that job is your style, is your dessert style?
It's my phonetic, it's my brain that never stops. I mean, I'm so inspired by things like colors and stripes and vintage and blah, 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 and tea service and, whatever. I'm just inspired. Style, whatever. And everything triggers something. So when you're creative, hopefully you have that in you, you know?
So this obsession with flavor is what sets your gummies apart. In fact, it's what actually pushed you to make your own chocolate as well, a dark milk chocolate called Les Extraordinaire. Tell us how you approach the flavors of the gummies. I've read sort of like a plated dessert, correct?
Yeah. So, when I started the brand with the company that I work with, Cresco, wonderful company, it was very hard to get my point across to people that are in the corporate arena. I'm telling you, like, what I thought of was I'm going to make a line of gummies that if you went to the Santa Monica Farmers Market in peak season for every single flavor, you would know exactly what I'm talking about, right? Because you go to the Santa Monica Farmers Market and you get those Harry's berries, or you get like peaches, or you get like a citrus, right? And everything is exactly what it's a peach is a peach. When something like is the plum, it tastes like a plum. I said to the group, the ideation group, I want to approach these gummy flavors as if I'm going to the farmer's market and you're tasting that flavor. So what I had to do was sit everybody down and make desserts and state my case for every flavor that I wanted to do. You know what I mean? Not every flavor made it, but the ones that did, and the working with the food scientists to get like that right flavor, It was really fun and really great. And then what I created was like, you want a mandarin orange gummy? It tastes exactly like a mandarin orange. Poached cherries, right? You get the vanilla, you get the orange, you get everything. So they did a really good job.
Incredible. And same thing with your chocolate. You
Yeah.
love milk chocolate.
I
but
do.
I
So,
read in the
yeah.
bakery, you're kind of combining chocolates anyway.
Yes. Yeah. Well, I think all pastry chefs do that, of which is funny and ironically that I didn't think that anybody did it but me. And then I started talking to pastry chefs and like, oh, yeah, we do a little bit of this, a little bit of that. I'm always taking combinations and percentages of all different chocolates, all different ones to create a flavor. And so I was like, well, why don't we just make our own chocolate and then we can use it? And so that's what we did.
I've also read that you marched to the beat of your own drummer and that you were very anti-trend. How do you block out the noise?
Well, I'm really good at it because I've been doing it for a really long time. As a creative in a field that has many creative people, you could literally get lost in other people's ideas, right? What's the fun of that? Why would you want to do that? You have a brain, you're creative, close your mind and make what you want to make. And don't worry about what everybody else is making because you're not that person. So you can't be somebody else, you got to be yourself.
All right, before we dive into Danish and your recipe, I just want you to tell us a little bit about Mindy's Bakery, which you opened in 2022 to lines around the block. The lines are still there 3 years later. Can you tell us the vibe? Can you describe the baked goods you sell?
I can sure tell you that.
Okay, good.
Literally, I wanted this bakery to be basically unfinished, not perfect, and I wanted it to be like you were coming into the pastry kitchen to buy pastry. You know what I'm saying? Like kind of funky. And I literally stand right by the pastry table. And it's literally this table that I bought. It's like from Italy, from the 1800s. It's a baker's table. It's huge. And I have the most incredibly funny front of the house staff. So the whole idea is that it's very personal. I wanted you to feel like when you come in to the bakery and you finally get to the person who's going to put the stuff in a bag, it's like, we're so glad you're here. We're so glad you came. We're so glad you thought about us. And with excitement and like a baby, when a baby's so excited or a dog is shaking them, you know, like we just love that you're here. And so we treat you that way. Like as soon as the door opens, welcome, you know, and like I just have very friendly people. And it's funny because I'm standing right there and I hear them talking and describing the food. You'll always hear me go, and it has this in it, and it has that. Oh, no, it's not that, it's this, you know, and I'll correct. And it's funny. You don't even see me, but you can hear it because I'm right by the speed racks.
Is that purposeful for you to be so close so you can keep?
Yes,
or is it?
I want to hear everything.
Yeah, I love that.
And we play loud music, and I make playlists. I love music. I'm like a huge music nerd. I mean, the playlists are crazy. And sometimes we'll just stop and start singing.
And I also love the way you divide the menu. You have first bake and
we have
second
a first
bake,
bake,
which I thought was so clever.
Yeah.
And I also loved that you will divide the individual baked goods up by like the dough. Like these are the Danish dough baked goods. These are the croissant dough baked goods. I love that.
And laminated brioche, which is also really cool.
I love that.
Yeah, we do that.
And would you say there's a specific word or a few words that kind of describe the kind of baked goods you're making?
Yeah, perfectly imperfect.
We'll be right back. Today's episode is presented by California prunes, the best kind of prunes out there. I am a big fan of California prunes for 2 reasons. They're a great addition to your pantry when it comes to smart snacking and baking. You probably already know that prunes are good for your gut. You might even know that prunes are also good for your bone health. But what you really need to know is that prunes are absolutely delicious in both sweet and savory dishes. But don't just take it from me. Here's what some of the country's top culinary experts have to say. Chef Bronwyn Wyatt of Bayou St. Cake says, prunes have an earthy, winey richness that pairs beautifully with the tart, fresh flavor of berries. Chef Kat Turner from Highly Likely in LA says, they are an incredibly versatile ingredient that strike a great balance between sweet and savory. They are incredibly sensual. Ana Castro from Akamaya in New Orleans says, prunes have a sultriness to them. They are very rich and like velvet. I like to use prune puree in my baked goods to give them great flavor and also to replace some of the sugar, eggs, or fat in the recipe. It's super easy to whip up. Just blend prunes and water together and voila. For recipe ideas and more, be sure to check out the California Prunes website at californiaprunes.org. Happy baking and happy snacking. Guess what the latest issue of Cherry Bombe magazine is all about? Paris. Whether you're headed to Paris this year, dreaming of Paris, or just a Francophile at heart, you're going to love this issue. Get recommendations from She's My Cherry Pie faves like Dory Greenspan and Zoe Bakes, meet the coolest Parisians around, and learn about their restaurants, shops, bars, and bakeries, and meet some fascinating expats who changed their lives when they moved to the City of Light. Pick up an issue at cherrybombe.com or your favorite local bookstore, magazine shop, or gourmet store. You can find a complete list of retailers at cherrybombe.com. And there's a special promo for the Bombe Squad running right now. Buy the Paris issue plus any Cherry Bombe subscription and get free shipping. Just add code PARIS at checkout. Now back to our guest. All right, I wanted to talk about Danish. First, just generally, can you define what Danish dough is for the listeners in your own words?
Well, I can best describe it that when you go to the airport and you want to buy coffee and something sweet, it's that thing that looks rolled up with a bucket fruit inside and glazed with apricot glaze. Like, that's a Danish to me, you know? Like, you think about it, it's like this cheese Danish with unknown cheese, unknown fruit. I call it bucket fruit. And it's sweet, and it's soft, and it's warm, and it's, you know, it's like a little hug, like a little snuggie. It's an enriched, sweetened dough, like challah, but laminated. So it's soft. Well, my Danish dough, I can't really talk about everybody's Danish dough. I mean, a lot of people make Danish with croissant dough, so it's a soft and pillowy. Best description.
Is there a traditional Danish shape? I think of them as like open-faced almost in the sense that the topping is on the top.
Yeah, I think a traditional Danish shape where you like roll it and then you roll it and spin it. So then there's like this little hole and that you fill that with the bucket fruit and the bucket cheese. You know what I'm talking about? Yeah, we don't do it that way. We actually fill it. Oh, God, I don't even know how I came up with this idea. We fill it like a tart.
Love.
And it poofs up.
Yeah.
You know, and it's
around. So is the filling still exposed?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, love.
Oh, I put fruit compote with the wet inside of it. It's really weird what we do.
And at the bakery, you use the Danish dough for other pastries too, like the morning bun?
The morning bun, yeah. And then we do a savory Danish, and then we do a sweet Danish, and it changes seasonally. Yep. And then I do, oh my God, okay, I'm going to blow your mind. I do also make, I call them strombolis, and I make a savory stromboli every day with the Danish dough. And then I do another one with my laminated brioche. But yeah.
Incredible.
Yeah, they're really good.
Let's talk about the recipe exactly. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to freeze or, chill 3 flours together, which are bread flour, whole wheat, and cake.
Yeah.
We're going to add a little wheat germ.
Yeah.
We're going to add sugar, which I assume is granulated.
Yeah.
And some kosher salt.
Yeah.
We whisk this together.
Well, you kind of like mix it together and then put the butter in and throw it in the freezer.
2 questions about the butter. It's unsalted.
It is.
And do we care about the shape that, like, should the butter be cold or warm? Or it doesn't matter because we're freezing it?
Everything needs to be frozen to grind it.
Right.
And then we grind it, but, they're like just haphazard in that mix because we want the exposed butter to create the steam.
Of course.
Yeah.
In the bakery, when you're doing this freezing step, you're doing it in a hotel pan, which is like almost like a humongous 9x13.
Yeah.
We would do it at home in a mixing bowl. Do you have a favorite type, like a glass bowl, a metal bowl?
No.
Okay.
I would say
that
beautiful pottery vintage bowl that you found at the flea market 14 years ago.
Okay, love.
That's
perfect.
The best.
Perfect, very
It has to be from 14 years ago.
Yeah. And then my question is, why all 3 of the flours?
There's a combination. You need the bread flour. Strength, and then the cake flour gives it like that pillowy, beautiful, light, tender, and then the germ is for texture.
And then in terms of the shape of the butter, have you sliced
So
it?
you can do multiple things.
Okay.
I mean, you could literally like take the frozen butter and grate it. You can do anything you want. So listen, I can't, if you don't have a Roboku, like a grinder at home, you could literally take it on a box grater and do it like that and then just form it.
So
it really doesn't matter. We call it, I used to call it the hot chocolate cut. So it's like you take that big pound of butter, that butter block, you cut it in 8, then you turn it over, you cut it in 4, then you turn it over, you cut it in 4, and you got these perfect little blocks. It doesn't matter.
Okay, perfect.
I
So,
mean, yeah.
so we're either processing, or I love your grating idea,
the
but we're going
grating
to
idea.
process the butter and the dry ingredients to make
Yeah.
a variety of different size small
Yeah.
butter pieces.
Yeah.
Are you pulsing, or are you guys?
Yeah. Pulsing.
So we're pulsing, and then we're going to freeze that mixture again.
You don't have to, though.
Okay.
Okay, I'm going to tell you that right now. You
Okay.
don't have to. And it's funny, the Danish wasn't really coming out well, and I could see it in the bake. And I was like, okay, tell me what the process is. And I saw they were like over freezing everything. And everything was so cold that the butter didn't have time to ruminate in the flour. You know what I mean? So I was like, please don't make it frozen. Because the original recipe is not frozen. It's like almost room temperature butter. And I was like, that's a little too far over there. And we're too a little far over there.
Meet in the middle.
Yeah, meet in the middle. So, yeah.
And now we're going to combine some honey with some
milk.
whole milk, I assume.
Yes.
And some eggs. And are we whisking these together? And do you have a favorite whisk that you love?
A fork.
Great answer.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah. A fork. Love. And again, the honey. For the flavor, what made you add the honey?
I put honey in every single bread that I make. I don't know why I do it. I'm just a grandma.
Yeah.
I do it for good luck. It's just soft and sweet, and it adds something, it's like, I kind of look at it like it's almost the corn syrup of bread, but it gives it that elasticity and sweetness, and nature's bee is coming into your food. I don't know.
Love.
Here I go.
In case people want to start doing this, would you get like a super flavorful honey that you
can.
love? So
You
that
can. Oh, that would be beautiful.
Yeah.
I mean, sometimes, like wildflower honey is beautiful, or orange blossom. I love orange blossom honey is like my favorite honey. You can go to the store, the convenience store, and buy honey. It's just a touch,
Love. It's a Mindy touch.
Yeah.
So now we're going to pour the honey, the milk, and the eggs with some instant yeast and water into the mixer. So I had a couple of questions. We're not using that water to proof our yeast in any way because we're using instant.
I always start out the same way. I take my water and my yeast and I mix it, and then I get everything else together, and then I put everything together. Maybe it's because I feel like I need to awaken the yeast, even though it's instant yeast. I don't know. It's because I'm not a technical pastry chef. So I have these things that I do, and then I have to teach it to people that are technical, and they look at me sometimes like I'm weird, or they don't know where I'm coming from, but it's like, no, trust me, I know. It works.
Is it warm water?
I use tepid. And then I let it sit. I leave my eggs, and I leave everything out at room temperature. Yeah, so everything's just together. And symbiotic and kumbaya.
And I love it that you use instant yeast. I love instant yeast. Is the water because you want the neutrality of the water so that the butter is really flavorful in this? Could you use more milk at this point?
Probably.
Okay.
Yeah. Why not?
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So now we have all of our wet ingredients in our stand mixer, and we're going to put the dry ingredients and our butter on top of that.
Yeah.
Is that like specific to the bakery that sort of everything goes on top? Like at home, would you want us to do a little bit at a time?
No, never.
Okay.
You want it all at once.
Love.
I basically like to put my wet ingredients first and then put my, but you could do it either way now that I think about it. But yeah, and then all you're doing is just mixing it like really quick, quick mix.
So
quick mix.
Well, so I was going to ask what speed and for how long is fast?
It's almost like bup, 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 bup,
and
like that. Done. Yeah, pretty much. So it's like a weird looking, odd dough. It's almost like when you make biscuits, you don't mix it perfectly. Then we leave it in the refrigerator overnight. We want everything to marry, just like a chocolate chip cookie. We want everything to get together, get to know each other, kind of relax a little bit, like,
chill.
Chill. Shh, calm down.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then the next day, we take it out and we turn it.
The dough will be kind of wet and sticky at this point.
In the morning, it's sort of not.
Right, but when we put it into the fridge for that overnight chill,
it's kind of weird.
It's kind of weird. And it's in a greased bowl.
Yeah, covered. Overnight.
Chill that overnight.
Yeah.
And then the next day, we're going to turn the dough 3 times. When you say turn, is that letter folds?
I do letter folds.
People may know, but can you just describe a letter fold?
Well, when you fold a letter, you fold it 3 ways. So you fold it, and then you fold it over. And then what you do is you turn it, and you have to, be consistent with your turn. But this dough is not a flaky dough. This dough is a poofy dough.
Pillowy,
yeah. They're pillow poof.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's a different dough. So, you cut it open, and it's like you see the structure of the dough, but it's not like a croissant. You know what I mean? When you get those open structure, it's not like that.
Totally. It's almost like when you pull dough apart and it's almost like a cheese pull, except it's a bread pull.
Right.
Yeah,
Exactly.
I love that. I love that.
Yeah.
And are you pausing in between letter folds
No.
and letting it rest? You're just doing 3-letter
No.
folds. Love.
And by the way, you can take the scrap and turn it again and use that, and you wouldn't even know the difference. You don't throw anything away.
We do our 3-letter folds. We're going to wrap. Are you guys using plastic wrap?
Yeah.
Okay. We're going to wrap in plastic wrap. The direction is to freeze. At home, could we just chill in our refrigerator?
You could literally, after the third turn, let it relax a little bit, and then you could just use it.
You could bake it off.
Yeah.
All right. Again, if we froze it, we'd defrost it in the fridge. In the bakery, I know at this point you're going to use a sheeter.
Yeah, you don't need a sheeter.
You don't need it at home. Is this a fair thing to say? Is a sheeter like a huge pasta machine?
Yes.
Kind of? Okay, good. I just came up with that last night, and I was like, is that the best way
That
to...
is so funny because I talk about that too.
All right, so we have our giant pasta machine if we're in a bakery. But at home, we just grab our rolling pin.
You could literally roll. It's so resilient.
And is there, first of all, a favorite rolling pin? And second of all, are we talking a 1/4 inch, an eighth of an inch?
Honest to God,
Yeah.
it's up to you. I can't tell you because I don't know what you're making with it. But we roll it. It's almost like, what is that? Like a
Quarter
of an inch?
Yeah.
Yeah, and then we can do different things with it. So we can roll it really thin. We can turn it again. We could then take it, and then we could put like another kind of fat in it, turn it again, and then do something crazy with it, which is something that I do quite often.
And
Yeah.
at this point for you guys, you have your piece of dough in front of you. You're ready to make your Danish. Are you cutting it into circles?
We do a couple different things. So we'll roll it out, and then the first thing that we do with the dough, because it has stages, the first thing we do with the dough is we cut it into circles, and we fill our Danish dough. It's like a tart ring. Then when we put that away. Then
When you say put away, do you mean chill or
yeah,
just rest?
so like chill.
Okay.
Because, we have to be prepared. So then we take the scrap, re-roll it, and then we take that, and we brush it with either a tea syrup or a fruit syrup or whatever, and then we make our morning bun. Then any other scrap that we have left, we make into sheets, and then I make the stromboli with it. So everything has a purpose.
Love.
Yeah.
Love, love, love. The first cut, let's say, before you're re-rolling any scraps, that's going to be our Danish.
Yeah.
And those are put into pastry rings or tiny tart pans, not with the Danish dough going up the
Yes.
sides.
I use it like tart dough. I treat it like a tart. Yeah.
Love, love, love.
Yeah,
I
simple.
love that. Yeah. I love that.
And then from the refrigerator the next day, onto the table, fillings, bake. We don't proof it
love that too.
because it proofs in the oven.
Question for you. Tools. So like a pastry cutter or like a
wheel.
pizza cutter is basically we don't need a little paring knife. Like the pastry cutter is sort of what you want at this stage. Or a mold, like a huge biscuit cutter almost.
Yeah, that's what we use to cut them out.
Yeah.
Like a entremet ring. Yeah. And then, that's what we use.
Love.
Yeah.
Any egg wash, like is that tiny?
No.
Don't even need it.
Not for the Danishes.
Okay.
Not for the Danishes, but for the stromboli, and some of them we use egg wash for.
Love. I wanted to talk about a couple of the fillings.
Oh.
So this one is labne cheesecake Danish with brown butter streusel. And I happen to know that not only are you a milk chocolate girl, you're also a brown butter girl.
Oh, my God.
Yes. And honey drizzle. So tell us about adding these items.
It's a take on a cheese Danish. Our cheese filling for anything, our base, is cheesecake custard. So we take cheesecake and we bake it in a water bath in large, deep hotel pans. And then we take it out and put it in a container. And we use that. It's my cream cheese buttercream. It's our base for cheese filling. We might add lemon curd to it. We might add creme brulee custard to it. In this case, we're adding lebne to it. And the reason why we're doing that is because sweet, tart, morning, honey, Danish, crispy, top, everything, get out.
Okay.
Get out.
Just a minute. So I'm picturing a huge hotel pan.
Yes.
Filled with cheesecake filling, but no crust, obviously.
No, it's like, we just bake it like a custard.
So bake it so it's a little looser than a
No, it's baked like a cheesecake, but it's in a hotel pan. And then we cool it down. We take it, we put it in a big container. It's like a whole process.
Oh, my
You
gosh.
should see it. So
Do you whisk it up or you just kind of scoop it and plop it?
No, we scoop and plop.
Oh,
but
my
then what we
gosh.
do is we'll take it, and this custard, we'll take it with buttercream, and we'll melt it almost halfway, and then mix it together very lightly so that it doesn't form air bubbles, and you get this there's no way I can describe it except you have to eat it. It's
So
like
it's like
heaven.
cheesecake buttercream?
Yeah.
Oh, my gosh. And you
It's
put that
ridiculous.
on cakes?
We put it on cakes. It's the cheesecake custard that's a base. So we have certain bases that we marry together.
Yeah.
So like we'll have cheesecake, we'll have brown butter custard, which is ridiculous. We'll have creme brulee custard. We'll have lemon curd, orange curd, passion fruit curd, key lime pie filling. Like all these fillings are like our bases.
Oh my gosh. Yum. And don't
Yeah.
tell anyone, but I don't even like cheesecake that much, but that sounds incredible.
Yeah, no, you would like it.
Oh my
It's almost like a
gosh.
pastry cream,
Yeah.
you
Oh
know?
my gosh.
Yeah.
Incredible. So we have our little pie-shaped Danish.
We mix, it's half and half. We
So
mix
half
it.
labneh, half the
Yeah.
cheesecake custard.
Yeah, it gets other things in
Put
it that I'm not
down.
telling you. Yeah.
Then we do brown butter streusel on top, and then the honey drizzle. Does the honey
Yeah.
drizzle come after the bake?
Yeah, after the bake. So what
Okay.
we do is we take a piping bag because it's easier, more consistent. We pipe the custard, and then we put the brown butter streusel around it. And what happens is that it bakes up and almost over a little bit, but it pays respect to the filling so that you see the filling and you know what you're eating. Does that make sense?
Yes.
And then when it comes out and it cools, we brush it with like a honey syrup. So we make our own honey syrup.
Okay,
Yeah.
tell me about, I love this savory one. Tell me about the house-seasoned pork sausage,
yeah.
egg, cheddar, and
Yeah.
chive.
We make our own sausage, which is crazy. We make everything. So we make our own stocks. I braise, I smoke. I have a smoker.
Yeah.
We take pork belly and we cure it like pastrami, and I smoke it in my smoker. So anyway, we make our own sausage. We fill it with an egg
Cooked
on top.
sausage?
Yeah.
Yep.
On top. And then, it's just a soft
Do you
breakfast
bake with
sausage.
the raw egg on top, or do you
Yeah.
add? Okay.
Yeah.
And then it just bakes in the oven, and
Yeah.
then you're ready.
Yeah, it's delicious.
Oh my gosh. And then I love this gluten-free one. This gluten-free,
I make Danish with gluten-free.
yeah, rosé macerated raspberry Danish with creme
Yeah.
brulee custard, which
Yeah.
was what you just referred to,
Yeah.
and gluten-free brown butter streusel. Okay,
Yeah.
first of all, is there a way, without having an entire other podcast on this, although I would
Yeah.
love that, to tell us a little bit about your gluten-free flour blend?
Honestly, I use King Arthur. Yeah, I don't make my own blend. And then I make gluten-free bagels too, and I use a different flour for that. So it's like it's specifically designed for a bread,
Mm-hmm.
and we just literally interchange it with the flour.
Oh my gosh.
I don't do anything different,
Yeah.
even with my bagels.
And this rosé macerated raspberry Danish with creme brulee custard, would you ever put that in a regular, like, is that only what you do with
No.
gluten-free? It just
No.
depends.
Just depends. Everything is contingent on what's in season for the most part.
Yeah.
I mean, sometimes we do strawberries in the winter, and I'll just take strawberries that I got from my farmer and freeze them.
Yeah.
And then what we do is we just do it with port wine, a little bit more like a feeling of winter. You know what I mean?
Love.
Yeah.
So I know we don't proof after we fill, we just bake, but
Yeah.
just curious, I assume you're using convection. So, but about how long are you baking for and at what temp?
I love that you asked me that question because I get that question all the time. And I'll give you my answer, and then I'll give you the technical answer.
Right.
Okay? Because I always say to people, I have no idea. Why don't you check? Because I was trained to never use a timer, which is the craziest thing. I worked under a pastry chef, and she's like, if you need a timer, then you're not focused and paying attention, which could be wrong or could be right. At least that's what I got out of it. So I don't even use timers. So the people that work for me, sometimes I'll come up with a new cookie, and they'll say, well, how long does it take in the oven? And I'm always like, well, see for yourself. You use your senses. You figure it out. You touch things. You just know. I would say about 25 minutes in a convection oven at 325. We don't
Yep.
bake anything at 350.
Yep.
We do 325.
Which would be 350 in a regular oven.
Yeah.
I like what you're saying a lot. I mean, the timing really, it's not even consistent from kitchen to kitchen.
I can't even tell you. I don't know what your kitchen. I don't know humidity. I don't know season that you're
Yeah.
working in. I don't know altitude.
And you don't know the
I don't
kind
know
of
your
oven. Yeah.
I had no idea.
I always think like your senses. You
Right.
see it, you smell it, and then
Right.
you feel it.
Well, I believe that nothing really happens in 8 to 10 minutes of baking.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're checking your oven at 30 seconds, you're a nervous Nelly, okay? And you don't have confidence. So take a deep breath and relax. And if you have to put your timer on for 10 minutes.
Yeah.
And then you'll see. But 325 to me is the sweet spot temperature. 350 is almost a little too hot, where it sort of like happens and it browns, but it doesn't cook. So I feel like 325 is that time where things are cooking and slowly cooking and slowly developing. And I think that's the sweet spot temperature.
I love that. The worst is when you've cooked some, it looks ready.
And it's not.
Visually, but the inside
Yeah.
is not cooked
Like,
because the
yeah.
heat was too high.
When you put cookies in a convection oven at 350, they burn.
Yeah.
And they don't cook.
Yeah.
So I'm, sensitive to
Oh,
that.
also, just what kind of pan are you
Sheet pan.
Sheet pan with
Parchment paper. Yeah,
and then you
spray.
have your molds.
Yeah, and I spray the molds. Spray.
The molds have a bottom.
No.
It's just the sides.
The rings, yeah.
Oh, it's the rings.
Yeah.
Love.
You can also do, I do large format Danishes.
Yeah.
But I wanted to tell you that I also sometimes use the Danish dough for my quiche instead of pie dough. Yeah. So I use that, and it makes a beautiful quiche.
All right, I wanted to talk about a few other recipes. Tell us a little bit about that gluten-free bagel, if you don't mind.
Well, I would love to talk to you about it. It's my pride and joy. So a couple of years ago, I went gluten-free, and I was like, I'm trying to think about how I'm going to get through my day without eating a bagel. And I was like, well, I'll make a gluten-free bagel. And it was a little bit of a journey because I kept following these recipes and doing these weird dances and praying to the gods and everything. And then I decided, well, I'm just going to make something that I feel instinctually is what a gluten-free bagel should be. And I'm going to treat it just like my other bagel. I'm very proud of my gluten-free bagel.
You should be.
Yeah.
Yum.
Yeah, I eat them all the time.
And there's a couple of flavors that are listed on your bakery menu. Can you share some of the flavors of your bagels?
We do plain, sesame, everything. Our everything has fennel in it. And then we do a couple other ones that are great.
Maybe something with garlic?
We do a garlic challah bagel. That's a favorite of everybody's. And then we do a raisin with smoked sugar baked on top of it. And so it gets this hard crust. And then you've got the interior of it. It doesn't have large raisins because we puree the raisins. It's so good. And then the one that is my favorite is the Black Russian. So it's a Black Russian everything bagel. And that one is really, really cool.
Tell us about your bow stock, because I read it was your pride and joy.
The bow stock is pretty cool. So we
tell people what it is, just in case they don't know.
Well, it's like day-old bread, like a toast. It's like a French toast on steroids. So it usually has some sort of frangipane on it or something. But the one that I particularly love, so I love laminated brioche, just like I love the Danish. It's very similar, but we'd make brioche, take out some of the butter, and then use that in the butter as a butter block. Very special dough. One person makes it in my kitchen only, and it's really wonderful. So I'll take that and I'll roll it, a sheet of it, and bake it in a bread tin. And so you get this bread that has it's open, it's very open and weird structure. One in particular that I'll talk about is I'll make coffee, I'll put malt in it, I'll dip that bread in that, and then I'll make flourless chocolate cake. And I'll pipe that on and then put the streusel on top of that. That with the lot extraordinaire is extraordinaire.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah, that's a fun one.
Flourless chocolate cake batter piped on top of the bread?
Yeah.
What the?
Yeah, what the what?
Oh,
yeah.
my God.
Yeah, what the what? Yeah.
Then tell us about the blueberry Pop-Tart.
The blueberry Pop-Tart is we make a blueberry paste, and then we take the liquid from making that paste. We make a glaze with it. And then it's all of our scraps from when we fill our individual quiches. We'll take that and then we'll fold it, roll it and fold it, roll it and fold it. So it's like puff pastry almost. And that's what we make our Pop-Tarts with.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah.
And then finally, the hot fudge and smoked sugar thumbprints.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, my gosh.
That's in my book. Yeah.
Incredible.
Yeah.
Talk to me about what hot fudge is. Is it a ganache center?
Yeah, right. But it's hot fudge, so we cook it down and let it separate and then bring it back together.
And then smoked sugar is just a
Smoked
flavored.
Sugar. It's like sugar, demerara sugar that's put in a cold smoker, and it literally tastes like a campfire.
Oh my gosh.
And we make them and then we roll them. Yeah, they're delicious.
Oh my gosh.
Everything is delicious, right?
Well, I can't wait to come. Thank you so much for
you're
chatting
welcome.
with me today,
fun.
Mindy. And I just want to say that you are my cherry pie. That's it for today's show. Thank you to Nonino and California Prunes for supporting this episode. Don't forget to subscribe to She's My Cherry Pie on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen. And tell your baking pals about us. She's My Cherry Pie is a production of the Cherry Bombe Podcast Network and is recorded at CityVox Studio in Manhattan. Our producers are Kerry Diamond, Catherine Baker, and Elizabeth Vogt. Our associate producer is Jenna Sadhu, and our content and partnerships manager is Londyn Crenshaw. Thank you so much for listening to She's My Cherry Pie, and happy baking!